Welcome to the Dadlife podcast. I've talked about previous relationships I've had on this podcast before and how hard it was for me to date somebody without kids. So I wanted to bring on a stepmom who has been through everything that my ex-girlfriend has been through and get her perspective on things. So joining me today on the podcast is Lauren, the host of the Perfect Podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
So I wanted to bring you on because I've talked about my experience with my first girlfriend that I had after my wife and I separated and how hard it was. And I wanted to get a stepmom's perspective.
Right.
So you're married now?
Yes, I'm married. We've been married for 2 years, 2.5 years. Together for, I guess, 6. I don't know. The math is hard for me, but yeah, about that time.
And he was previously married?
Yes, he was previously married and had 2 boys from that marriage when I met him.
So how long was he married?
Maybe 8 or 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
How old are the
Maybe
boys?
they knew each other for 8 or 10 years. I should know that. But when I met them, when the boys were like 1.5, about to turn 2, and 4.
Oh.
Yeah, they were young.
How long after their split did you start dating?
It was like about a year after they were like officially divorced, but they had been like separated for probably a year before that. Like they were like right when the second son was born, I think they started separating. But yeah, so I guess a year and a half, 2 years after I started dating him.
So they were officially divorced when you started dating?
Yeah. I didn't have to like go through any of that.
I wasn't officially divorced when I moved.
Okay.
When I moved out of the house. The thing, like, it really didn't even cross my mind. I just wanted to focus on the kids, and because they were having a hard time with me leaving. Would that have bothered you if he wasn't officially divorced yet?
Probably.
Yeah.
Only because, I mean, there's just like unfinished business there. Like,
yeah.
That's kind of all there is to that. I think like I wouldn't have wanted to be a part of that process as like entering into a new relationship with someone and trying to get to know them, and that whole like new relationship phase. You don't want to have to be dealing with that kind of stuff because it can be dramatic, and it's just the nature of that type of situation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, my girlfriend at the time, she had a hard time. Not at the beginning. She didn't care at the beginning, but it became a problem.
Of course, yeah, because you don't want to admit that it could be a problem. You just want to do the fun thing and start a new relationship.
Yeah, since I didn't really think about it, I didn't think it mattered, and I ended up saying to her at one point, like, it's just a piece of paper. Like, I think the fact that she would bug me about it made me care less.
Yeah.
Almost. I don't know. Do you get along with his ex?
Yeah. I mean, I've always maintained perspective that she deserves my respect, and I just try and keep it about that. I speak well of her, and I'm friendly with her. I made sure that I met her before I met the kids. That was like one of my rules or whatever, something that I made clear at the beginning was I wanted to meet her, and because I put myself in her shoes, and I knew if I was in the same situation, I would want to meet whoever it was before they met my kids.
Oh, yeah.
So that was something I had him arrange, and she was very kind and nice. And
how long after you guys started dating did that happen?
I probably met her a month or so after, and then the kids like shortly after that.
Oh.
Yeah.
So have you dated anyone with kids before him?
No. So I met my husband when I was 23. And he's 13 years older than me. And he was like the oldest person I had ever, like the biggest age difference that I had ever dated. Before him though, I had gone on a couple of dates with a guy who was like recently separated. And like, that's why we only went on a couple dates, because he quickly realized he shouldn't have been dating, and because it was becoming messy.
Uh-huh.
But that was like the only experience I had had with that. Otherwise, I dated people like kind of around the same age as me, in the same type of life situations and all that. But I was always like, I really liked kids. I didn't know if I didn't know if I was going to want kids of my own at that point in my life, because I was 23. So like, I didn't really think much of that type of stuff. I didn't, at that point I had decided like, I'm not getting married and I'm not having kids, and I don't believe in those things.
Oh,
But that's what you say when you're 23 and you think that's just how life is. But then I met this guy and he had kids, and I stumbled down a totally different path. And I just
so
went with it.
when you met, were you nervous that he had kids?
Well, when I met him, I didn't know he had kids. We met at a concert. We were strangers, like we didn't have like mutual friends or anything, and so we chatted for a bit and went on a date out of the movies. Like, we closed down the restaurant, all that type of stuff, but it never came up.
Oh, really?
No. Later I found out he was like, he hoped to have told me, but it like never came up naturally in conversation. And he was like nervous to bring it up. And
Mm-hmm.
we were having such a great conversation. He didn't want to like ruin it, kind of thing. So he didn't tell me, but I then, after our first date, internet stalked him, which is one of my many skills. And through that detective work, I stumbled upon some like photographers blog post who had done like photos for them and used their names in her blog post, and saw like pictures of him with like a pregnant wife and children. And I was like, wow, that's terrifying. But the good part about that, I think, is that I got to like freak out about it on my own. So by the time he did tell me, because he told me shortly after that, we had a second date planned for a week later. And before that date, he like texted me this whole confession about it, to kind of like let me know before we kept going if it was something I wanted to pursue with him. And by the time he told me, I sounded so like mature and collected, and like I sounded so okay with it. I didn't have to like freak out in front of him, because I
Mm-hmm.
did the freaking out on my own. But when I found out that information, I kind of had time to sit and decide whether or not it was something I thought I could do. And after thinking about it, I was like, yeah, let me try this. I like this guy. But to answer your question, yeah, I was nervous.
So
But
if
I
he,
was honest with him about that. I told him I had never dated anyone with kids, and I was going to be honest with him the whole time. And if it
Mhm.
became something I couldn't handle, I would let him know. And that's kind of the way I took it.
So if he told you that first date like right away, would you have stuck around, or would it have scared you
I
off?
want to say yes. I might have like, I don't know. I might have like reacted differently, or I don't know. I want to say yes, because um, that's what I would hope I would have
Yeah.
done. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, because I mean, you want to know that, right? But
Mhm.
it's a lot. It's a lot of information. And the first date, I felt like we got a chance to just get to know each other and figure out if we even liked each other enough to like have a second date or see each other again or keep talking. So we got to do that. And when we both decided we did want to keep seeing each other, I felt like it was good that he told me then. But I mean, some people might have wanted to be told on the first date, just for sake of honesty and getting the whole picture and things like that. I was happy with the way it turned out, though.
Yeah. I normally, well, of course, I do mostly online dating, but that's like one of the first
Okay.
things that I'd say. I actually had someone a couple weeks ago. Normally, when they ask me about how often I have them, I see them. I
Hmm.
pretty much have them almost every day, and
Right. That's how my husband is.
a lot of the time I'll get responses like, "Oh, you're such a good dad" or whatever. But this one girl's
Mm.
like, "No, too much for me. I can't handle that."
Right. Yeah. Which is, better to be honest
Yeah,
than think
yeah.
than to lie about it.
So what type of schedule did he have with them at that time?
So when they first got divorced, I don't know all the like, or I mean, it's just not my story to tell, I guess. But when they
Yeah.
first got divorced, he had them like all the time.
Hmm.
And then they switched to 50-50. So he would have them one week the full week, and then she would have them. Oh no, that happened after we started dating. So, but when I met him, he had them like every other week and every single weekend. So she would just have them every other week for the weekdays. Is like where they were at when I met him.
Mm-hmm. Did that bother
Um,
you?
no, no, because I mean I had like my own like life and stuff going on. So I had been dating and I had been seeing people, and so like when he was free, I'd see him, and he would make time for me, and I'd see him, and that was kind of how it was. And then when we started getting more serious, we he on his own accord like asked his ex-wife if they could go 50-50, and he would have them for a full week and she would have them for the full week so that he could at least have every other weekend available. So that helped that. And they've always had a very like flexible, amicable situation when it comes to like scheduling and custody. It's between them two. Like it's not like taken to the courts or anything like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's very, very helpful. So they changed it up like that. And then a couple of years ago, we switched to a schedule where we had them more of the time just because of just school and different things. Like it just made sense for us to have them with us for most of the weekdays.
Mm-hmm.
So we have them more now, but it never like, I don't know. I always went into it with the perspective of like, I don't really get to have so much say over that kind of stuff. Like it's more about like what's better for the kids.
Yeah.
So I always just lead with that. Like whatever I felt was in their best interests was what I would be in favor of.
Did you find that hard at all to kind of not be involved?
Not really. I mean, I've been involved in stuff that I've wanted to be involved in, I guess. Like I've been able to pick and choose like when it comes to that. Well, now I'm involved in everything because we're married and I'm very much involved. But at the beginning, yeah, I kind of just like treaded lightly. I didn't know what I was getting into. So I didn't want to just like jump in there and be like, listen to me. This is what I have to say. Like these two people had all this history together and these two kids together and all this stuff that they had been figuring out. Like it wasn't my place. But I definitely, I just had no idea what I was doing, truthfully.
Yeah.
Like I just was learning as I went along. It was very hard. There was a like really tough transition period of going from like this 23-year-old who lived on her own and had her own life, and suddenly I'm thrusted into this situation where like our schedule is dependent on like these other people, and yeah, that part was hard. But making the decision making part was always, as long as the kids were okay, like I never felt anything was wrong.
Yeah, it just makes me think of my relationship, and I know she had a hard time, but she wanted to be involved in everything. Like even she said to me at one point, like I should be the one that decides their schedule, and like she wanted to take them to school, and I don't know, and
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where that would have come from. I'm not gonna like therapize that, I guess. But
yeah. We were only together
yeah.
for a year and a half.
Okay, but yeah, I guess that's still a good amount of time. But yeah, that's still, it's hard. It's hard because I saw this quote once, and I'm gonna butcher it like I butcher every quote because I have a hard time with these things. But it was basically something like being a stepmom is like living someone else's life, because like your life is dependent on all of these other people that aren't you. Like so your
Yeah.
schedule and your vacations and all of these like life decisions, like where you're gonna live, what town you're gonna live in, what school, like all of it is dependent on other people besides you and just your husband, or you and just your boyfriend. And that is hard to get used to. And if that's not something that you're comfortable with, it's just not a lifestyle you should sign up for, I think, because it comes with the territory. You have to be okay with hearing other people's opinions and including them and not agreeing with them and still having to do the thing and
Yeah.
all of that. You have to be real flexible.
It's so weird hearing you say all this. For years now, I've always thought that she just, I don't know, was like mean and couldn't handle it or whatever. But now it makes me understand.
No, yeah.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. I didn't
no,
expect
yeah.
that.
Good. good. Yeah, it's not, it's no one's mean, it's just, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to jump into. And I'm sure she had good intentions and,
Yeah.
but no one knows what they're doing. And yeah, it's hard. You want to have like autonomy over your life and suddenly you don't anymore. And it's, it's hard.
Yeah. Huh. Were the kids nice to you right away?
Were the kids nice to me? They were not nice. They were
Mm-hmm.
young. They were like, one was the baby. He was a year and a half, 2 years old when I started. And the other was like maybe 4. I remember like they would never say my name. Like they would never like call me by my name. They would never like say, like they wouldn't really speak to me, I feel. I was just like around
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed that and like they would never let me like hug them or pick them up and like I never like forced myself on them. I still don't to this day. Like I always make sure that we're all comfortable and consensual and everything.
Yeah.
But I remember like the first time they like said my name out loud to me and they were like excited for me to be around. And when the baby would like, there was like, we have this one video where he was like playing with me and hugging me for the first time. And
Oh, cool.
like those moments finally came. And,
How long did that
but
take? Do you remember?
probably like a couple of months, if not more than that.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember it being hard. I remember crying a lot. It was like also like a hard time for me in my life because I not only was I doing that, but I was like 23, 24 years old. I quit my job and like, well, like I met my husband and like within like 6 months, I had quit my job, moved in with him and his kids, started a whole different career that I had no idea what I was doing. And I was also dealing with like my own stuff that I didn't really know was going on, like with anxiety and things like that. And like there was all these like other things that I was also dealing with on top of the stress of becoming a stepmom
Mm-hmm.
and dating someone new and whatever, that it was a tough time in my life. So it wasn't just the being the stepmom thing that was difficult, but yeah, it was exacerbated by all the other stuff. But it was difficult. I did cry a lot. Um, the biggest challenge for me was like the disciplining of the kids.
Yeah, I
Um,
was gonna ask about that.
yeah, very soon I realized that like the kids needed more discipline. They had none. They had like no boundaries. They were just running around like basically begging adults to tell them like when
Really?
to stop doing what they were doing because like nobody was really like doing that job, I guess.
So
And I
did
feel
you
like
want to discipline them? Did you guys have a conversation
yeah,
about that?
we had that conversation and I don't remember like how it went exactly, but I basically was like, I need to know if you're okay with me stepping into that role and like making like talking to you first and like telling you what my plan would be and then like implementing it in terms of like discipline and rules and behavior and like what's expected of them and what I'm going to do as a consequence and all of that so that we can then be on the same team and do it together. But I don't see you doing that. So like I want us to have a conversation. And he luckily was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing and I need that help. And you seem like you would know what you're doing. So I trust you. Let's go ahead and do that. And I think that was the biggest thing. Like, if that conversation would have gone differently, I don't think I could have continued
Mm-hmm.
because my fear was like, if I go through with this, I'm going to be in this house with these kids for the next like 18 years. And if they keep acting like this and they turn into teenagers, like my life is going to be miserable. Like I
Yeah.
can't foresee my life like that. So that one thing definitely played a big role in it.
Did they
And I know,
care that about you disciplining them?
no, they never gave me the like, you're not my mom kind of thing.
Oh, nice.
And I think it might have been because they were so like, they've known me since they were so young. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
kind of always been there. Um, but and also the other thing is their mom also is very open to me taking on that role as well. Like she's okay with me doing that. She's okay with me making those decisions now, and always has been. So that's like I think that's the only reason I'm able to do this successfully. That like all the parents involved are like okay with me having stepped in and adding myself to that plate of parents, and now we like all do it together.
Oh, that sounds
But
great.
yeah, I mean, there's been horrible parts of it
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like, but that part of it, it is good now. Like we're all very like mature and friendly and open and respectful. But yeah, the boys and yeah, I'm like the bad cop and I'm the mean one and I'm the one who sets all the rules and that kind of sucks. But
So he
there's
still
also
doesn't, he's not into the
mm,
disciplining?
well, I mean, he certainly is more so now
Hmm.
because like I've set that tone, so like he's able to like step up to that same level with me. But what I've noticed like when it comes to divorced parents is there's a lot of guilt involved. So like he feels like very guilty all the time and he doesn't want to spend the time that he does have with his kids disciplining them. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't like he just wants to like give them things and love them and give them his time and be happy with them all the time. And if they're doing
Even
something wrong,
now?
he doesn't want to yell at them. Still, yeah, that's still there. Even it's better now. He still wants to be the good cop, I think.
Hmm.
It's like I'm a little more relaxed when it comes to like getting hurt and like going outside and doing something that's kind of like adventurous maybe and like he when they get hurt he kind of like will freak out and be like oh my goodness so like we have our things we each have our things that we freak out about
Um, so him and his ex have a good relationship now?
now. Yes.
Do they
Mostly
talk
be
a lot?
no, so I have taken on the responsibility of like mediating, I guess. Like it kind of like I'm the one who handles all the conversations.
Oh,
And once we made that switch, like things became really good. But before that, like he just has a hard time um like taking away the stuff that happened with her and like not including that when they have conversations. Like it's really hard for him to like just be like, this is about the kids, like let's focus on the kids. He wants to like face her and talk to her about her stuff. And I always have to remind him like her stuff has nothing to do with you anymore. Like you don't get to tell her what's okay. You don't get to tell her who to date. You don't get to tell her any of that.
hmm,
Like that's part of the reason she's not there anymore. So you don't do that anymore. Like
yeah.
she's a separate person now.
Is she remarried?
So she is now. She was dating a man who was problematic, and that caused a lot of stress for us. Um, and like he moved in without us knowing, and there was all these things that were just really troublesome. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that like she wasn't comfortable like talking to my husband about things because he would just say like, no, you can't do that, and she'd be like, okay, yes, I can, and that was it. So there wasn't a lot of like foundation of trust and respect there. So like there wasn't a lot of open communication between the two of them. But then she ended things with him and started dating a new man. And when that transition happened, she came to us and talked to us about it. And I made sure that the three of us sat down and I like tried to like spearhead the conversation basically and spoke one on one with her rather than like my husband speaking to her and me just being there.
Hmm.
Because I used to say, like, you know what, this isn't my thing. You guys work it out. Like, I'm not involved. But that wasn't working. So I was like, I'm going to be involved now. Like, I'm going to be the one who talks. And so once that happened and I showed her, like, I respect you. I'm honest with you. I need you to do that in return for us. Like, what if you're bringing a new guy into the kid with in front of the kids? Like, we need to know. We need to meet him first. Like, kind of setting some sort of ground rules around like dating and things like that.
Hmm.
And she was okay with that. And since then, she's always been honest. She's always been upfront with us about everything. And the new guy she started dating was really, really great. And my husband met him and was, very happy. And they're like friendly with each other. And now they're married and they live together. And he's like a very supportive partner for her. And we
The
all
kids
are
like
able
him
to
too?
cope. Yeah, the kids like him. He's also divorced and has two kids of his own. He has two boys. So he understands my husband's situation more like as a
Hmm.
father, whereas the other man hadn't because he wasn't a father. So there's like a lot more like sympathy and empathy there between the two of them.
Yeah.
And that definitely helps. But yeah, now we're all like friendly with each other. Like we can like go out to eat dinner and talk about the kids and catch up on things, and it's like the best place to be.
Yeah,
It
that
was
sounds like
horrible
it.
before, and now it's really a good place to be in. Like before, when she was dating people that like were problematic for us, like I was like, I can't continue doing this. Like, it was horrible. It was so stressful. My husband was stressed all the time.
What was
It,
problematic about it?
he was just like, he was just someone we didn't necessarily want the kids around.
Oh,
And he like moved in. We weren't told about it. We had to find out through the kids.
yeah,
They
that's
were
weird.
lying to us constantly, saying like, no, he's just, his house is being renovated, but like it wasn't, like all these like lies. There was like a lot of lying going on, and the guy just kind of like gave us a vibe that like we just didn't like it. And
Hmm.
that was around the time, and like it was coming across like to other people too, and like the teachers were getting involved, and they're like, maybe the boys should like be at our house like for the school days and things like that. And like it was like affecting things, like her relationship was like affecting things. And I think she saw that also, and she saw that it wasn't going anywhere. Like, she was very honest with us about it when it ended. And he maybe didn't want kids or wasn't interested in having kids, and he obviously had 2 kids, and it was just something that wasn't making her happy either. So we weren't alone in that. And luckily it ended, and she's now with someone who's like perfect for her, and that makes it perfect for the kids because she's super happy and supported, and everything worked out.
Yeah, that sounds like a great situation now.
Yeah, now we can like finally like let go of our breath and breathe a little bit and
So
worry about
you
everything.
have a baby girl together now?
Yes, I have a 1.5-year-old now.
Awesome. Were the kids excited? Were the boys excited about that?
Yeah, they were so excited. We got married first, and they were like a part of the wedding, and it was like a whole thing. Like, we all got married to each other, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah,
they were part of the ceremony.
that's awesome.
And then shortly after, I got pregnant, like 3 or 4 months after that. And we told them, and they were like ecstatic. They were so excited. When we told them it was a girl, they were super excited. And now they're like obsessed with her. Like, the 3 of them are just best. I couldn't have asked for anything better. Like, I was really hoping I would have a girl, not only because I wanted one, because I already had 2 boys, so I wanted a girl,
Yeah.
but I knew that if I had a boy, there would be like this weird competition kind of thing. And like, because he was a boy, but he was my boy, and they
Hmm.
were not. But with the girl, like, she's like a girl. So like that already makes her totally different.
Yeah.
Like, she's just the girl of the house, and they're her brothers, and they take care of her, and they're obsessed with her. And I'm just so grateful, like, because I'm an only child. I didn't have siblings. So
Oh,
to know that like she has these 2 brothers that she's gonna have forever is ugh, awesome.
that is awesome. After being with the boys for so long, do you
Hmm.
feel more like they're yours?
Mm, it's a good question. Um, they're mine, but they're not just mine,
Hmm.
like my daughter is,
But
right?
do you feel close to them?
Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
hmm.
So yeah, it's just, I always try and explain to people that it's like, it's a different love. Like, I love them, but it's different, and they love me, but it's different because they still have a mom.
Yeah.
So like, they don't get to love me like fully unconditional, like this like genetic bonded love them through anything kind of love. Like, that's what you have for your, like, what they have for their mom.
Yeah.
And I don't feel that way about them like I do about my daughter, because like they do leave and they do go to someone else's house and call someone else mom, and like, so I can't just like rip myself open and give myself fully to them like that,
Hmm.
like I do to my daughter. It's just a different thing, because if I did, I would end up hurt every single time they went to
Yeah.
their mom's house. I'd feel sad. Like, I just couldn't do that to myself.
Do
So
they
I just
do they call you
Go
mom?
ahead. No, no. They call me by my name.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want that. Like, they have a mom.
Hmm.
Like, I always try and like explain that to people, because people are like, shouldn't they call you mom? Like, yeah, and I don't think so. Like, they have a mom, and she's very much involved in their life, and yeah, I'm not taking her place at all. Like, I'm parenting with her. I'm just a different parent to them,
Hmm.
and it's called stepmom or whatever you call it. But I'm just another parent in their life.
Yeah, they sound like lucky kids.
I hope so. Yeah.
Honestly, you've changed my perspective on that relationship I had. I
Oh,
did
I
not
hope so.
expect that.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah,
A
thank you
lot.
so much for coming on with me.
Oh, you're
Do you
welcome.
want to take a sec to tell me about your new podcast that you have?
Oh, sure. Yeah, thank you so much for the plug.
Yeah, no problem.
Um, I just launched a podcast. It's called The Perfect Podcast, and every episode I bring on a new guest who has a certain amount of following on the internet. Maybe they have a business or they're an influencer, they're a writer, whatever it is. And I basically ask them questions about the parts of their life that aren't showing up online
Oh yeah.
to kind of remind listeners and everybody that there is life outside of those little squares on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is kind of going through their own version of the same thing. And we're not like alone. We're not missing out on anything. No one's life is that shiny and filtered. And I think the more we hear other people's stories, like spoken by them in their own voice, the more connected we'll all be as humans. And I think that's something I want to add to the world and be my contribution to society is fostering some more human connection.
Yeah, it sounds very cool. I've subscribed on or followed on Spotify, so I'll be
Cool.
tuning
Thank
in.
you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I've subscribed to yours as well. I love your episodes and your show. It's really interesting to hear the perspective of a single dad, and it's not just for dads, your show. I feel like it's for any type of parent. Like it's really interesting to hear your perspective on things.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've gotten some good feedback. I love doing it too.
Yeah, it's so fun. I love
Yeah.
being able to talk to people. I thought that's kind of like my selfish reason for doing it. Like I don't talk to people during the day. Like I'm just around my kids.
Yeah.
I don't have like any adult interaction, so this is nice.
Well, it's great. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I will be in touch.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
That was Lauren from the Perfect Podcast. I will put a link to her show in the description of this episode, so go check that out. I have to say, I am shocked with how I'm feeling right now. I did not expect her perspective to change mine. Looking back on that relationship now, I realized that I was so focused on myself because honestly, that was the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. So to deal with that, I guess I didn't spend a lot of time paying attention to how she felt and how hard it was for her. This was a great episode for me, and I really learned a lot. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube at Dadlife Podcast, and on Instagram, follow at Dadlife Podcast or Dadlife Podcast 1 on Twitter and Facebook. I will see you in a week.